Alex had never thought much about the alien species of the planet Caldora. Is part of a diplomatic mission. He was there to make sure the humans and the Caldorians maintained peace and avoided any misunderstandings. But when he first laid eyes on Kayla, everything changed. The day was like any other. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the foreign landscape. Alex was walking through the Caldorian city's marketplace, speaking with the local traders, making sure the trade agreements were being followed. His mind was on his mission, his task at hand. That was until he saw her. Kayla was standing by a fruit stall, her dark blue skin glistening in the sunlight, her silver eyes scanning the market. She was tall, far taller than any human woman, her posture straight but relaxed. Her long, flowing hair shimmered with hints of silver as well, something Alex had never seen before at first. He thought she was just another member of the alien delegation, but there was something different about her. She wasn't like the others. There was an air of mystery surrounding her that drew Alex in. And, for reasons he couldn't explain, Alex found himself walking towards her. Kayla noticed him before. He could reach her, her sharp eyes locking onto his. For a brief moment, the air seemed to shift, as though something had passed between them. She smiled slightly, but it was more of an acknowledgement than anything else. "Human," she said, her voice smooth and calm, with a trace of curiosity. Alex stood there, momentarily unsure of what to say. He was used to the formalities, the handshakes, the polite exchanges, but this felt different. There was no protocol here. "Hello," Alex said, his voice sounding too loud in his own ears. He quickly tried to recover. "I'm Alex, part of the human delegation. It's nice to meet you." She tilted her head, studying him with those strange silver eyes. "I've heard of humans, but I've never met one before. We don't interact with your kind often." Alex was taken aback by the bluntness of her words. "Well, we're here now, trying to build a peaceful relationship." She gave a short nod but didn't seem entirely convinced. "Peace. Yes, that's what they say." Alex frowned. He had been trained to be polite and professional, but there was something about Kayla that made him want to drop his guard. Maybe it was the way she spoke, with such calm. Or perhaps the way her eyes seemed to search deeper, as though she could see through his very soul. "How do you find our world?" Kayla asked after a pause, her gaze softening just slightly. "It's ... different. Very different from Earth," Alex replied. "But it's beautiful. I never imagined seeing something like this." Kayla's lips twitched upward again, and Alex thought he saw a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "Yes, the beauty can be deceiving." Her words were heavy, layered with meaning, but Alex didn't quite understand. He glanced around at the bustling market, full of life, yet something about her tone made him question the surface of everything. They stood in silence for a moment, the sounds of the market around them blending into the background as Alex tried to come up with something more to say. He was out of his depth here, and he knew it. So, ... "What's your name?" he finally asked, his voice slightly hesitant. "Kayla," she answered simply. "And you are Alex, the human who is here to observe?" Alex nodded, his curiosity growing. "You don't seem to care much about our mission." Kayla didn't answer immediately. Instead, she glanced up at the sky, as though deep in thought. "I care about many things," she said quietly. "But your mission isn't one of them." Her words hung in the air, leaving Alex to wonder what she truly meant. He opened his mouth to ask more, but she cut him off. "You should go," she said, her voice no longer carrying the soft curiosity it had before. It was firm, almost commanding. Alex hesitated, but why? Because Kayla continued, her gaze meeting his once more. "Humans are strange. You walk into worlds you don't understand, thinking you can change them. But you can't, not without consequences." The words struck him like a blow, though he couldn't explain why. There was something about Kayla's certainty that unsettled him. He wasn't used to being dismissed, especially not when it came to his mission, but before he could respond, Kayla turned and began to walk away. "Wait," Alex called out, his voice louder than he intended. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm just trying to understand." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "Understanding is a luxury you don't always get. Be careful, human. Not everything here is meant for you." Alex stood there, Watching her figure disappear into the crowd, part of him wanted to follow, to ask more questions, to figure out who she really was and why he couldn't stop thinking about her. But he didn't. Instead, he stood there, staring at the spot where she had been, his thoughts racing. This was only the beginning, he realized. He had just met Kayla. Already his world had been shaken in ways he couldn't comprehend, and he had a feeling it wouldn't be the last time their paths crossed. The next few days passed quickly, each one blurring into the next as Alex carried out his duties. Yet, despite the busy schedule, his thoughts kept drifting back to Kayla. He couldn't shake the image of her silver eyes. The calm way she spoke, the way she seemed to see right through him. It was unlike anything he'd ever experienced before. He didn't expect to see her again, but as fate would have it, he ran into her again at the city's Central Park. This time, there was no bustling marketplace or the pressure of official business. It was just the two of them, surrounded by the peaceful beauty of Caldora's natural landscape. The park was full of strange plants and flowers that seemed to glow under the light of two suns, casting a soft, colorful glow across the path. Alex had been walking through the park, clearing his head, when he saw her sitting near a cluster of tall, silvery trees. She was staring at something in her hands, seemingly lost in thought. The moment he spotted her, his heart skipped a beat. He hadn't realized how much he'd been hoping to see her again. Kayla looked up and caught his gaze, her silver eyes narrowing slightly before softening. "You again," she said with a small smile, though her tone was more welcoming this time. Alex hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should approach. But something about her calm demeanor made him feel at ease. "I didn't expect to find you here," he said as he walked closer. "I like the peace of this place," Kayla replied, her voice quiet but filled with something Alex couldn't quite place. "It's different from the rest of the city." Nodded, taking a seat beside her, careful not to invade her personal space. "I understand," he said. "It's quiet here. Makes it easier to think." They sat in silence for a few moments, listening to the soft sounds of the wind rustling through the strange trees. Alex stole a glance at Kayla. She seemed different. Today, somehow more relaxed, as if the weight of the world hadn't quite reached her here in the park. "What are you thinking about?" Alex asked, breaking the silence. He didn't know why he asked it. It was a simple question, but he felt like he needed to know. Kayla didn't answer immediately. She seemed to consider the question carefully, her fingers gently tracing the edges of the plant in her hands. "I was thinking about how humans view the universe," she said slowly, her voice contemplative. "You look at everything so differently than we do." Alex tilted his head. "How so? You think everything has a purpose, a reason for existing? That's why you explore. You want to understand everything." But sometimes she paused, her gaze turning to the horizon. "Not everything needs to be understood." Alex frowned. "I don't understand what you mean." Kayla turned her gaze back to him, her silver eyes intense. "You humans," she said softly, "you search for answers, for meaning. But you never stop to wonder if some things are better left unknown." The weight of her words hung in the air, and Alex found himself speechless. He'd never really thought about it that way. For as long as he could remember, humans had been driven by the need to explore, to discover, to conquer. It was in there. Nature. But Kayla's words made him feel uneasy. Was it possible that in their quest for knowledge they were missing something important? Before he could reply, Kayla stood up, her eyes shifting to the sky. "Do you believe in destiny, Alex?" Question caught him off guard. "Destiny," he repeated. "I don't know. I think we make our own choices." Kayla's lips curled into a faint smile. "Perhaps. But sometimes the choices we make are shaped by something greater than us." Alex stood up as well, unsure of where the conversation was going. "You don't think we control our own fate?" Kayla looked at him, her expression serious. "I think you control your actions, but not always the consequences." Alex didn't know how to respond to that. There was something in her voice, something almost mystical, that made him feel small, like he was part of something bigger, something beyond his understanding. But he didn't want to dwell on it. They were from different worlds, after all, instead. He decided to steer the conversation in a lighter direction. So, Kayla, do you always speak in riddles, or is it just me? She laughed softly, a sound that caught Alex off guard. It was light and melodic, and for a brief moment, felt like they were just two people enjoying each other's company. Without the weight of their differences, I don't mean to be cryptic, Kayla said with a shrug, but sometimes it's easier to speak in riddles than in simple answers. The truth is complicated. Alex smiled, relieved that she seemed to be in a better mood. I get that. I guess life is complicated no matter where you come from. Kayla nodded. True, but we all need to find our own way through it. The two of them stood there for a moment, the breeze rustling the leaves around them. Alex could feel the connection between them growing, but at the same time, he couldn't shake the feeling that Kayla was holding something back, something important. But he couldn't bring himself to ask. Not yet. Thank you for talking with me, Alex said, breaking the silence. Kayla turned to face him, her eyes soft. You're welcome, Alex. Sometimes it's nice to speak with someone who isn't afraid of questions. Alex smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. I'm not afraid of questions, but I have a feeling you have a lot more of them than I do. Kayla's smile was subtle but genuine. Maybe, but I think that's why I enjoy talking to you. You're not afraid of the answers. For the first time, Alex felt like he truly understood her, even if just for a moment. There was something about Kayla that was both mysterious and familiar. And as they parted ways that day, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that their paths were destined to cross again. The days that followed, Alex's meeting with Kayla were full of confusion and frustration.
Alex was a part of the human delegation,
And his job was clear: maintain peace and ensure cooperation with the alien species on Keldora. But Kayla had made it difficult for him to focus on his mission. She had captured his thoughts, and no matter how hard he tried to push her out of his mind, she lingered there. The diplomatic meetings had become even more challenging. Alex was supposed to represent Earth, but it felt like he was no longer just there for politics. Kayla's words kept echoing in his mind, and every glance from her made his heart race. But he couldn't act on it. Not here. Not now. Despite his growing feelings, he couldn't forget the reality of the situation. The alien delegation had made it clear from the start that they didn't trust humans. They viewed humans as unpredictable and dangerous. Kayla had hinted at that distrust. But there was more to her hesitation than Alex could understand. It wasn't long before the pressures began to mount. The Keldorian Council had called for a meeting to discuss the future of their relationship with humanity. There was talk of a trade agreement, one that would benefit both sides. But it wasn't just about trade. It was about the bigger picture. The possibility of more human presence on Keldora. Alex sat in the conference room, surrounded by his fellow humans and the leaders of the Keldorian delegation. He could feel the tension in the air, and he knew it wasn't just about the agreements on the table. The council members' eyes were wary, studying every move the humans made. The feeling of suspicion was thick enough to cut through with a knife. Kayla sat at the back of the room, her silver eyes locked on him. She hadn't said a word to him since their conversation in the park. It was as if she was avoiding him on purpose, her cold demeanor a sharp contrast to the warmth she had shown just a few days ago. Alex's stomach twisted. Was she pulling away? Did she regret talking to him? The meeting dragged on for hours with no resolution in sight. Alex's thoughts kept drifting back to Kayla. What was she thinking? Why had she been so distant? Was he reading too much into their conversation? It felt like his entire mission hinged on this, on finding the answers to those questions. After the meeting ended, Alex stayed behind, trying to get a sense of the mood in the room. His colleagues were busy discussing the next steps, but he couldn't focus. His eyes kept flicking to Kayla, who was already standing by the door, preparing to leave. Without thinking, Alex stood up and walked toward her. He had to talk to her. To figure out what was going on, Kayla glanced up as he approached, but she didn't smile. Her expression was guarded, more serious than he had ever seen her. Kayla, Alex said, his voice filled with uncertainty. Can we talk? She hesitated for a moment before nodding. Suppose we can. They walked outside together, away from the noise of the conference room. The sky was darkening and the air was cool, a welcome contrast to the stuffy atmosphere. Inside, Kayla stopped by the edge of a small garden, her eyes turning to the distant horizon. What's going on? Alex asked, trying to keep his voice steady. You've been avoiding me? I thought we... I thought we had something. Kella's eyes softened for a moment, but she didn't look at him directly. I'm not avoiding you, Alex. I'm just trying to understand everything. Understand what? He asked, his confusion growing. We've been talking for days now. I thought we were getting closer. Kayla sighed, running a hand through her long, silver hair. The truth is, humans and Keldorians aren't meant to be close, she said. Quietly, our worlds are too different. There's too much history between our people. Trust is something we can't simply give away. Alex stepped closer, his heart racing. But we can change that. We can build something new, can't we? She turned to face him then, her silver eyes sharp and full of emotions Alex couldn't decipher. You don't understand, do you? Come here thinking that everything can be fixed, that we can just forget the past. But that's not how it works. The past shapes us, Alex. It shapes everything we do. I'm not trying to forget the past, Alex replied, his voice softening. I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to understand you, Kayla, but I can't do it alone. Kayla looked down, as if lost in thought. And that's where the problem is, she whispered. I'm not sure I can move forward with you. There are too many barriers. You don't see them, but I do. Alex felt a lump form in his throat. What kind of barriers? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She took a deep breath before speaking, her words slow and deliberate. You're human. You don't know what it's like to carry the weight of your people's actions on your shoulders. You don't understand the responsibility I have to my own people. I don't understand, Alex admitted, but I want to. Kayla looked up at him, her eyes filled with something he couldn't name. I want to believe that, but right now, all I see is the difference between us. And no matter how hard I try, I don't know if I can get past it. Alex felt his heart sink. He had come here to help, to build something between the humans and the Keldorians. But now it seemed like everything was falling apart. He couldn't make her feel something she wasn't ready to feel. For a moment, they stood there, silent. The distance between them seemed larger than ever. Finally, Kayla spoke again, her voice quiet but firm. I can't give you what you want, Alex. Not now, and maybe not ever. Alex stood there, his chest heavy with disappointment. He had known this might happen, but it didn't make it any easier. As Kayla turned to leave, he knew that their bond, fragile as it was, had been severed. For now at least, days passed, and the distance between Alex and Kayla seemed to grow. Despite their brief conversations, they both knew that things were different. Every time Alex tried to approach her, she seemed to pull away. It was like there was a wall between them, one that neither of them knew how to tear down, Alex found. Himself walking the city streets, deep in thought. The night had fallen, and the city lights bathed everything in a soft glow. He had never felt more lost than he did now. His thoughts were consumed by Kayla, her voice, her eyes, and the way she had looked at him when she said she couldn't give him what he wanted. He had tried to understand, but he couldn't help how he felt, couldn't deny that something between them was real, no matter how complicated it seemed. Kayla had been avoiding him more than ever, and Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a mistake. He didn't know what he was supposed to do next, but he couldn't stand the silence anymore. The uncertainty was eating away at him. It was late when he finally saw her again. She was sitting alone on a bench in the park, staring up at the stars. For a moment, Alex hesitated. The last time they had spoken, she had made it clear that their connection was not something she was ready to pursue. But this time, something felt different. He had to know the truth. Taking a deep breath, Alex walked up to her. Kayla, he said softly, not wanting to startle her. She turned to look at him, her silver eyes meeting his. But this time, there was no coldness in her gaze. There was only something he couldn't place, something vulnerable, Alex, she replied, her voice calm, but there was a faint trace of uncertainty. He sat down beside her, his heart pounding in his chest. Been thinking a lot about what you said, he started, his voice quiet but sincere, about the barriers between us. Kayla didn't say anything, but her attention was fully on him. She seemed to be waiting for him to continue. I understand that our worlds are different, Alex went on. And I understand that we come from different places, with different histories. But what I don't understand is why you're pushing me away. I know there's something between us, Kayla. I can feel it. She looked down, her hands folded in her lap. I don't want to hurt you, Alex, she said softly. But there are things that I can't ignore. It's things I've carried with me my entire life. You're human, and no matter how much. I want to believe that we could be something more. I know that it's not that simple. Alex's heart sank. Is it because of what happened between our people, the things we've done in the past? Kayla nodded slowly. Yes and no. It's not just about the past. It's about who we are. My people, our culture, ... We don't look at things the same way humans do. You come in with hope, with dreams of change. But I can't give you that, Alex. I can't promise you something that I'm not sure I can give myself. Alex felt the weight of her words. He knew that there were things he couldn't understand about her world, things that shaped who she was. But what Kayla didn't realize was that he wasn't asking for promises. He wasn't asking for anything except for the chance to be with her, Kayla. He said gently, I don't need you to promise anything. I just need to know if you feel the same way I do. Kayla's eyes met his, and for a long moment they just stared at each other. The tension between them was thick, and Alex could feel his heart racing. This wasn't going to be easy, but he couldn't walk away without knowing. It's not after everything they'd shared. I do feel something, Kayla whispered, her voice barely audible. But it's not just about what we feel, Alex. It's about what we're willing to risk. Alex reached out, his hand hovering just inches from hers. I'm willing to risk everything, Kayla. I know it's not easy. I know there are things between us that are hard to overcome. But I'm not asking you to change who you are. I'm asking you to let me in, to let us try, even if it's difficult. Kayla's breath caught, and she looked at his hand for a moment before slowly reaching out to touch it. The contact was electric, and Alex felt a spark run through him. He hadn't expected her to take his hand, not after everything. But she did. I don't know if I can do this, Kayla said, her voice shaking. I don't know if I can let go of everything that's holding me back. Alex squeezed her hand gently. You don't have to let go of everything. Just let me in. I'm not asking for all of you. I just want a chance to be with you, to understand. You better. Kayla closed her eyes, and for a moment Alex thought she was going to pull away. But when she opened them again, there was something different in her gaze. She looked at him with a quiet intensity, as though she had finally made up her mind. I don't know what's going to happen. Alex, Kayla said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I want to try. I want to see where this can go, Alex. Felt a rush of relief, followed by a surge of emotion. Then we'll take it one step at a time, he said, his voice full of hope. Together. They sat there for a while, their hands still clasped, the weight of the moment settling between them. It wasn't going to be easy. There would be challenges, and there would be times when they would doubt themselves. But for now, all that mattered was that they were taking the first step together. Oh, that was enough. After their conversation in the park, things between Alex and Kayla had changed. There was no sudden shift, no dramatic moment where everything became clear. Instead, it was a quiet understanding that settled between them. They didn't talk about it much, but both of them knew that they had crossed a line. Their relationship had moved from simple curiosity to something deeper, something that neither of them could ignore anymore. But even though they had decided to try, the challenges had only just begun. The days that followed were filled with awkwardness. Alex had hoped that Kayla's acceptance would make everything easier, but it didn't. There were still cultural differences, unspoken rules, and the weight of their people's history that made every interaction complicated. And then there was the ever-present fear that Kayla might pull away again, that the differences between them would finally become too much. They had dinner together a few times in the following weeks, but every conversation seemed to circle around the same fears. The fear of judgment from their people, the fear of rejection, and the fear of failure. Alex tried to reassure Kayla, but she was quiet, always looking over her shoulder as if expecting someone to see them together. One evening, the tension finally broke. Kayla asked Alex to meet her outside the city in a quiet field. It was a place she had chosen carefully, away from prying eyes, where they could speak freely without the watchful gaze of the Kaldorian council.
Alex.
He found her standing under the soft light of 2 moons, the grass swaying gently. In the cool breeze, Alex, Kayla said when she saw him, her voice steady but with an edge of uncertainty. We need to talk. He nodded, his heart pounding. About what? I've been thinking, she began, taking a step closer.
About
us. About everything. Alex's stomach tightened. He had known this was coming. The doubt that had lingered in Kella's eyes, the way she hesitated every time he reached out, he had felt the change in her. The way she pulled away, just a little bit more with each passing day. I think it's time we address what's really going on, she continued, her voice calm but firm. I've been holding back, Alex. I've been trying to make this work, but I'm not sure if I can. Alex felt his chest tighten, but he forced himself to stay calm. Kayla, please. Don't want to lose you, but if something's wrong, we can fix it. We can figure this out together. Kayla shook her head slowly, a sad smile playing at her lips. It's not that simple, Alex. It's not about fixing anything. It's about trust. Trust, Alex repeated, confused. Yes, Kayla said, taking a deep breath. I've been trying to trust you. But every time I reach out, every time I let myself get closer to you, I remember what I'm risking. My people, my duty, my honor. I'm supposed to be the one who represents my people, not someone who gets lost in human emotions. I'm not. Sure, I can be both. Alex stepped forward, his eyes locking with hers. You don't have to choose between us and your people, Kayla. I'm not asking you to forget who you are. I'm asking you to take a chance, to trust that we can make this work, even if it's hard. Kayla closed her eyes, the weight of his words settling over her like a heavy blanket. I don't know if I can, Alex. I've been taught my whole life to put my people first, to protect them. If I fail, if I let my emotions get in the way, it could cost us everything. The Kaldorians don't forgive mistakes. I understand, Alex said softly. But we can't live in fear of the unknown forever. We can't keep holding ourselves back just because we're afraid of what might happen. Kayla opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. For the first time, Alex saw something different in her expression. It wasn't just fear or uncertainty. It was something deeper, something like understanding. I've never been in a relationship like this before, Kayla admitted quietly. I've never trusted anyone like I trust you. But I don't know if I can trust enough to let go of everything I've known. Alex reached out, taking her hand gently in his. Kayla, I'm not asking you to let go of everything. I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust yourself. We can face whatever comes together. For a moment, Kayla didn't respond. She just looked at their hands, intertwined in the soft grass between them. She seemed to be weighing the choice in her mind, her gaze flickering back and forth between Alex and the dark horizon. I don't know what's going to happen, Kayla said finally, her voice trembling slightly. But I want to try. I want to see where this goes. Alex felt his heart swell with relief, his grip on her hand tightening. Then we'll take it one step at a time, he said, his voice steady. We don't have to have all the answers right now. We just have to trust that we can figure it out together. Kayla nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the moons above. Together, she whispered, and for the first time in days, Alex felt like they were on the same path. The fear and doubt that had been hanging over them had not vanished, but now there was hope. They weren't alone in this anymore. They had each other. As the night stretched on, they sat together in the quiet field, talking about everything and nothing, letting the weight of the past slip away little by little. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start that neither of them had expected but both were ready for. The days after their conversation in the field were quieter than Alex had expected. Kayla seemed to be grappling with her feelings, her thoughts moving at a pace Alex couldn't fully follow. She was kind to him, but there was always a shadow in her eyes, something that made him wonder if she was still holding herself back. Wasn't just her. Alex was no stranger to doubt. Every conversation, every moment with her, was colored by the fear that this might not last. They were from 2 very different worlds, and every time they shared a moment, it felt like they were skating on thin ice, trying not to break through into the cold waters below. But despite the tension, something in Alex felt more certain than ever. He was willing to risk everything to be with Kayla. He had come to Keldora to help bridge the gap between their people. But now, more than anything, he wanted to build something with her. He couldn't imagine a life without trying to make it work, even if the path ahead was uncertain. One evening, after several days of awkward silences and quiet conversations, Allah asked Alex to meet her again. This time it wasn't in the park or the city. She had invited him to a place deep in the Keldorian forest, where the trees towered above them like ancient giants. It was far from the eyes of the Keldorian Council, and it felt like the perfect place for an important conversation. When Alex arrived, Kayla was already waiting for him by a small clearing, her back to him. The soft rustling of the trees in the breeze was the only sound in the stillness of the forest. As Alex approached, she turned to face him, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Alex," she began, her voice calm but with an edge of seriousness. "I've been thinking a lot about what we've talked about what I've said." Alex stepped closer, his heart beating faster with each step. "Kayla, She raised a hand to stop him. "Let me finish. I don't want you to think I'm backing away, because I'm not. But I need to make something clear." Alex nodded, trying to keep his anxiety in check. This felt like the moment he had been dreading, the moment that would define their future. "I've been struggling with this," Kayla continued, her voice trembling slightly, though she tried to hide it. "With what I feel for you, and with the responsibilities I have to my people, I can't pretend that there aren't dangers, that there aren't consequences. Every day I've spent with you, I felt like I'm torn between two worlds." Alex's stomach tightened, but he stayed silent. Letting her speak, I was raised to believe that we must always put our people first, that everything else comes second. I thought I understood that. But the more I've been with you, the more I've realized how much I don't understand, how much I don't know about what I want. Alex could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He stepped closer, carefully placing his hand over hers, feeling the warmth of her touch. "Kayla," he whispered, "you don't have to choose between us and your people. I understand the responsibility you have, but I believe in us. I believe that we can make this work no matter how hard it might be." She looked at him, her eyes softening. "I want to believe that too, Alex, but there's a part of me that's scared of what will happen if we try, scared of what it might cost us." "I'm scared too," Alex admitted, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. "But I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to face whatever comes as long as we're facing it together." Kayla's breath caught, and for a moment, she said nothing. It felt like time had stopped, like the weight of the decision hung between them in the quiet of the forest. Finally, she took a deep breath and spoke again. "I don't know what the future holds," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I know that I can't keep pretending I don't feel something for you. I can't ignore what's between us anymore. I can't keep living in fear of what might happen. I want to try, Alex. I want to take that step with you." Alex's heart soared with relief. He squeezed her hand gently, his voice full of emotion. "You're willing to trust me? To trust us?" Kayla nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Yes, I'm willing to try." The weight of the moment seemed to lift, and for the first time in weeks, Alex felt a sense of peace. They still didn't know what the future held, and there were many challenges ahead, but right now that didn't matter. They had each other, and that was enough. "I don't know what will happen next," Kayla continued, her voice more confident now. "But I know I want to face it with you." Alex smiled, his eyes shining with hope. "Then we'll face it together, Kayla. We'll take each step as it comes, and we'll make it work." They stood there for a moment, their hands still clasped. The forest around them silent, except for the occasional rustling of leaves. It wasn't a perfect solution, and they knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But in that moment, they had taken the most important step of all toward each other. Kayla leaned in, her forehead resting gently against his. Together, she whispered again, and Alex felt like everything was falling into place. They didn't have all the answers, but they didn't need them. All they needed was each other, and that was enough to start. In the days that followed Kella's decision, things between her and Alex felt more natural, though still uncertain. There were moments when the weight of their differences pressed down on them, reminding them that their relationship was not without its challenges. But those moments were fewer and fewer, replaced by the quiet comfort of simply being together. They spent their days exploring the alien world, walking through Keldora's lush forests and learning about each other's cultures. Kayla showed Alex the beauty of her planet in ways he hadn't thought to see through her eyes. Every detail seemed more vibrant, more full of life. She took him to ancient temples, their stone walls covered in intricate carvings that told stories of the Keldorian people, their triumphs and their struggles. The history of her people was long and rich, filled with tales of hardship, but also of survival. Alex listened intently as she spoke about her world, fascinated by the depth of her knowledge. He began to understand the weight of the responsibility. Kayla carried the sense of duty that guided every decision she made. It was a responsibility Alex had never truly known. The human world was different, its people less tied to the ancient histories that shaped Keldora. But Kayla's past was her foundation. Alex was beginning to see how it shaped her every move. There were still moments of doubt, though. Late at night, when the world was quiet and Kayla lay beside him, her thoughts often seemed distant. Alex would catch her staring at the stars, her eyes full of worry. And though she never spoke of it, Alex knew that she was still afraid of the risks they were taking, afraid of the consequences of their love. But every time that fear crept in, Alex reminded her that they were in this together. By little, Kayla seemed to let go of her hesitation, trusting more and more in the bond they shared. One evening, as they sat on the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast, glowing lake, Alex turned to Kayla, his heart full of gratitude. The stars were reflecting in the water, casting a peaceful glow over everything. It was one of those rare, quiet moments where everything felt still, where the weight of the world seemed to fade into the background. "I don't know how we got here," Alex said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm glad we did." Kayla smiled, her silver eyes soft and full of warmth. "So am I, Alex, so am I." For a long moment they sat in silence, just enjoying the peace of the moment. It was as if they were the only two people in the universe, sharing a secret they didn't need to speak aloud. "I used to think that there was only one way to live," Kayla said quietly, breaking the silence. "That I had to follow the path laid out for me, that my duty to my people would always come first. But now, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not afraid anymore." Alex turned to her, his eyes full of wonder. Kaela ... She placed a hand on his, her touch gentle but steady. "I'm not afraid of what might come anymore, Alex. I'm not afraid of what we might face together. We've both changed in ways we didn't expect. I think that's okay." Alex nodded, his heart swelling with emotion. He had never imagined he would find himself here, on an alien world, with an alien woman by his side. But in a way, it felt right. Their differences, their struggles, had brought them closer together. They had learned to trust each other, to understand each other in ways that no one else could. "I think we've both changed," Alex said quietly. "And I think we're ready for whatever comes next, together." Kayla smiled at him, her silver eyes shining in the moonlight. "Together," she whispered, as the evening wore on. The stars above seemed to grow brighter, their light reflecting on the lake like a promise of the future. Alex felt a sense of peace settle in his chest, a feeling he hadn't known was possible. He wasn't sure what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure: Kayla was worth the risk. And whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. In the days that followed, their bond continued to grow stronger. The Keldorian Council, though still wary of the relationship, had begun to show signs of acceptance. Initial distrust that had existed between their species was slowly beginning to fade, replaced by a tentative understanding. Alex and Kayla's relationship had become a symbol of the possibility of peace, a reminder that even the most unlikely of unions could lead to something beautiful. One morning, as they walked through the fields together, Kayla stopped and turned. To him, her eyes serious, but filled with something else, something like hope. "Alex," she said, her voice steady, "I don't know what's ahead. I don't know if everything will work out. But I want to keep trying. I want to keep building something with you no matter what happens." Alex smiled, his heart full. "Me too, Kayla. Me too." And with that, they continued walking, side by side, into whatever the future held for them. Together,